Hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope that everybody is doing well today. If you're new here, then hi, my name is Brittany and I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm also the creator of the Brittany Holzbeck NP Review. It is a total AANP and ANCC review course that I created, just received accreditation through the AANP. So nurses and nurse practitioners alike can actually take the course and can get continuing education credits. It is currently the most comprehensive and affordable course on the market. So if you're interested, definitely check it out. I'll have everything linked in the description box below. I also do have a personal channel here on YouTube where I do things a little bit more casually. I do some lifestyle stuff, some motherhood stuff, just talk about life in general. If that's something you're interested, I will also have that linked in the description box below. All right, otherwise, today I'm going to be doing kind of a follow-up video that I did a couple of years ago, and I think it's really about time that I do this video. So today I'm going to be talking about the Bioness L300 Go. If you have not seen my first video, I will link it here in the description, like a little card here, I'll pop it up, but I definitely recommend that you go ahead and check that out. And so when I made this first video discussing the Bioness, I had been using it for I believe about a year. Now I have been using this device for about 5 years, and so I'm excited to do an update on my review of the device. If you are not familiar with what the Bioness L300 Go is, this is a neurostimulator, and it's a cuff that essentially goes around your calf and it stimulates your peripheral nerves to lift your foot up. And this is a device that's used for patients that have foot drop. So if you have a spinal cord injury like myself, or cerebral palsy, or post-stroke, foot drop for other reasons, this is a device that can be very useful for you, potentially. I definitely recommend that you would try out the device before purchasing it, but I want to give my review now 5 years later. All right, so I'm just going to do some pros and cons regarding the device. So pros. I think that it is wonderful for using it on various terrains. So because you lift your toe and it's not held in this kind of straight position like how you would get with the brace, it gives you a more natural gait. And if you're walking on, say, bumpy ground, you lift that toe and it just makes it easier and less likely that you will trip. Because if you're walking and you hit something with a straight foot, you're much easier to catch it versus if you lift up and over. And so things like walking in sand, walking on the grass, walking in the dirt, whatever, those types of uneven terrain, it's made it a lot easier. Also, I would say another pro of this device is it's given me a lot more stamina. I feel like I can walk longer distances with the device and I do not feel as fatigued in my leg. It's just given me more mobility in general. I also love that this device allows me to wear all different types of shoes. And that was huge. That was a big motivating factor for me to want to use this device. I know it sounds silly, but if you're someone that wears a brace, then you really understand the pain in the butt that it is to find shoes that not only fit the brace, but fit the brace comfortably. I would often find shoes that I could shove my foot into with the brace, but it wouldn't take long for it to be very, very painful because the brace would be rubbing and my foot would just be throbbing in pain. And so now I have a lot more flexibility with wearing all different types of shoes. Tennis shoes, boots. I don't really still wear heels. The way that the heel does is because, it makes your toes point down. And the way that the device works is it's trying to lift your toe up. And so it really kind of is like counterintuitive with wearing heels and a Bioness. But I can wear flats, tennis shoes, boots, all different other types of shoes, sandals, and it just makes my life so much easier when I'm picking out shoes and just like that comfort in general. And so overall, I would say that I do really like using the Bioness L300. I use it almost 100% of the time as my sole assistive device. I do find that I need something almost all the time to help me with my walking the older I get. I can't really go without anything. I can technically walk without the Bioness, but it's a lot more difficult for me. I would never do it out like in the world and getting things done. Maybe around the house, I will go without any kind of assistive device. But if I'm out and doing things, anything, I have to have some sort of support. And so it's been, I would say, over a year since I've even put a brace on. That being said, there are definitely some cons with this device. There is definitely some areas that could be improved. It is a piece of technology, and if you are familiar with technology, which I'm sure you are, technology sometimes fails us. It doesn't always work. And when you use a device that you require to walk and get around and it fails you, that can be a problem. And so I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I would say, are not great about the Bioness. One, just it doesn't always work the way it should sometimes. So if I go to take a step, a lot of times that initial first step, if I'm not very cognizant about that first step that I'm taking, I will trip, and that's because it's not triggering at the right time. You have to be really careful that the Bioness, the cuff is lined up on your calf just so it's triggering the correct nerves. Otherwise, it won't trigger your foot and your foot won't lift. And so that first step that you're taking when you're starting out walking, you really have to be very focused on that first step to make sure that the device is going to lift your foot and work correctly. Once I kind of get into my stride of walking, it's easy and I really don't have to think about it that much. But that first step when you're starting out walking, you have to be very cognizant of walking. And you get used to it as you go on. I mean, it's something that I've become very accustomed to, but I definitely have to focus because I will oftentimes find that it just doesn't trigger right away, or it's not lined up just so. And so I'll have to be careful and readjust it and make sure it's working properly before I take off walking. And so it's really hard to just like get up and go really quickly. Like if I just stand up and go really quickly, I almost can't ever do that. I have to get up, stand. You usually will trigger once when I go to stand up just because I'm moving, wait for it to settle back down, make sure that's lined up, everything is proper, and then take that first step and see that it's going to lift my foot appropriately, and then walk. And so yeah, that just transitioning from like sitting or just standing in place to walking, you have to be very conscientious about what you are doing. And so that's kind of, if you don't do that, that can be a problem because you'll trip and fall. And so I would say that is a con. It's not perfect in that sense. Another con to the device is that it's really large. The problem is that like with pants and stuff, it can get really hard to sometimes fit like tighter pants over the device. And it can then, if you wear tight pants with it, it can kind of shift the device. And again, if it shifts, it will be not lined up correctly and then it won't trigger the way it should. And it can be hard to fix it with pants on. I feel like all of the ads that I would see for the Bioness, they'd all be wearing shorts. Well, I live in Michigan. And so, yeah, that's great during the summer. And it's all easy and fine there, but I need to wear pants. And so I would say that it's really, really bulky and it's sometimes hard to fit under pants. And it can also, if you're wearing tight pants, it can kind of shift it. And so again, you have to be careful to make sure that it's staying in place. So just something again that you need to be thinking about. Another con I would say that they could just fix it would be nice, would be that it's always blinking a different color or a different light. You'll find that the blinking light oftentimes will shine through your pants. And so people will often be staring at it and wondering what you're wearing on your leg. Doesn't really matter, but I just find it a little frustrating. Like I think we could figure out something else besides like a big blinking light on your leg that just always draws attention. Especially kids are like, what is on your leg? You know how kids are. And they just don't, they're like, let me explain to you about the neurostimulator. So I think that like just some like cosmetic things and like making it like smaller would be nice. I don't know how easy that is to be done, but just some things like that would be helpful. Another thing, and this is kind of a big one, and I talk about this in my first video, is that this device is not in any way, shape, or form waterproof. I mean, it seems like, intuitive that you would know that it is not waterproof, but you have to be very, very careful. You would naturally know not to go into the water and fully submerge it, but I did have issues once when I went down to North Carolina and I was walking on the beach, and just the moisture in the air really messed with my Bioness. I ended up having to get a whole new device. And so I learned that the hard way. Luckily, they actually replaced it for free. But since then, anytime that I know there's going to be any kind of moisture in the air, I will actually wrap it with like cellophane. When I went down to the beach a couple times since then, I'll wrap it with cellophane and then I'll actually put like an ace bandage over that. And I'll just keep it very, very covered and secure. But then it sucks if you want to get in the water, you have to take all of that off. And I recommend bringing like a big Ziploc bag or something very airtight and with a seal on it, so you can put everything back in to the bag and seal it up so it stays dry. It is so important that you keep this device dry. And so now, like I said, I've been using this for about 5 years, and I'm starting to see that the device is not working as good as it used to. I feel like the stimulant is not as strong. I feel like the battery is not staying charged as long as it used to. And also it's very like finicky with charging it. If you're not careful and the battery isn't lined up just so when you're charging it, it won't be charging at all. And if you aren't careful and it's not charging, when you go to use it the next day, it won't work. I just had to replace the cuff. So after 5 years of using it almost every day, I finally had to replace the cuff. So I don't think that's that bad. And it's because if you look at the Bioness, and I'll just show. So this is the cuff of the Bioness, and it wraps around your leg as so, and that seals on there. So if you look on the inside, this is where you have an electrode, and these pop out. You have to purchase these. You get a new prescription from your provider once a year, which is I'll talk about that. Actually, that's another con. I'll talk about that in a second. But you have to wet this, and they say the wetter the better, which is kind of weird. Nothing else can get wet, but this has to be like sopping wet. And you plug those in, it's like color coded. But so on my previous cuff that I had, because this is a new cuff now, these two like devices here, where the electrodes go in, they have two little rods. Well, the rods eventually kind of just like fried from constant use. And so it stopped working. It just stopped triggering. I'd go to bend down and the thing would turn off. If I stood perfectly straight, it would stay on, but anytime I had movement, the device would turn off. And so that was why I had to get a new cuff. And I think they charged me like a little over $600 to get the new cuff. So, I mean, for 5 years, I would say that held up pretty well. I think now it's time that I get a new battery because, like I said, it's not staying charged. I find it really hard even to like line it up to charge it properly. But so if you look, let me see if I can get it out. The battery actually pops out. And this is still over 5 years old. And so oftentimes you'll have to pop this out if you find it not working great, and you'll see that like maybe it's collected dust or something in here. And you can use like a little bit of alcohol and like a Q-tip and just like wipe it clean. And like even these little electrodes, like these tiny ones in here, softly wipe those clean. And here I kind of clean this out. And keeping it clean, you'll notice like if it's not working really well, if you go and clean it, it'll start working a little bit better. So sometimes it's just a simple thing like that. But I think now I'm getting to the point where I need a new battery. I'm curious to see what that's gonna cost me. Yeah, and then it just kind of pops in like so. And this is the charging port here. I probably need a new charger too. So yeah, like I was saying, another con too is that these electrodes, they come separately. And so the more you buy, the cheaper they are, which is usually how it works. But you need a new prescription every year from your provider for these electrodes. And I feel like that's kind of frustrating in itself. It's just like an extra step. And a few times I've had to jump some hoops to get a hold of my provider to write a script for more electrodes. So just know in advance that you will need a new script every year for electrodes for your device. And yeah, so like right now I can see I've been wearing it since this morning. It's like in the afternoon now, and it's getting a little dry on the electrode pad. So I would take it off and I'd wet this and I'd put it back on. But yeah, those are the big pros and cons that I would say I have for this device. I mean, it's quite pricey. I paid over $5,000 for this device, and my insurance did not cover the cost of it. I have heard that there are some Medicaids that will cover the cost of the Bioness. So if you have Medicaid, it might be worth looking into if your insurance covers it. Obviously, whatever insurance you have, I would say it's worth looking into just to make sure that just in case your insurance does cover it. I have Blue Cross Blue Shield, and it covered none of it, which I find, thanks healthcare. But yeah, I would say it has been worth the investment though, because it has given me a lot more mobility and stamina and just the things that I talked about. But yeah, that's my new update on the Bioness L300 Go. And the really cool thing about this company is that they have some other devices too. They have a thigh cuff if your paralysis goes up further, so you can have a thigh and a calf cuff if you need more assistance. And they also have one for hand function if you have decreased hand function. So again, cerebral palsy, stroke, spinal cord injury patients, it might be worth looking into if this is something that you are dealing with and paralysis in your hands. These devices might work for you. When I purchased this device, I was able to first try it out. I went to a local PT office that was familiar with the device, and a salesperson for the Bioness met me there, let me try it out, let me walk with it. So I definitely recommend, if it's something that you're considering doing, try it out before you purchase it and make sure that it works for you. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave that in the comment box below. I will try really hard to get back to these comments. Otherwise, I wish you guys nothing but the best. Don't forget to learn something new every day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.